Hello everybody, I'm Jim Moynagh. This channel is Moynagh Bass Fishes, and we do everything bass fishing on this channel. So how can it be anything about bass fishing sitting here in front of this fireplace? Well, this is going to be one of those episodes where I read from an old vintage fishing publication. And in this video, we are going to take a look back at something from a library of books called the Hunting and Fishing Library. These books were made, started in the 80s and then going on into the mid 90s. So let's get on with it. First, we got to pick out a subject. So I guess they make all kinds of fishing books, different topics: walleyes, muskies, northerns, man-made lakes, natural lakes, rivers, streams, trout flies, and bass, smallmouth bass. I'm kind of curious about doing a little reading from the smallmouth bass selection. So let's go and pick that out right now. This is the book of smallmouth bass. All right, by the Hunting and Fishing Library. All right, so we're not going to read the whole book because that would take forever. But the whole purpose of this is maybe to be entertained, maybe to learn something, but most importantly, I am going to try to lull you to sleep as I read from this book, because sleep is hard to come by these days for some of us. So what's a better way than to go to sleep than listening to somebody talk about fishing? All right, so again, this is the Hunting and Fishing Library. Author is Dick Sternberg, who is a author of many things fishing, and he originally was a fisheries biologist with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. He authored many books, many fishing articles, and also he was a expert on the TV show Monster Quest when they were in search of the giant lake trout somewhere in northern Canada. But anyhow, okay. What should we read? Let's see. Smallmouth Bass Basics. That's a good place to start, really. Smallmouth Bass Basics. Or actually, Understanding the Smallmouth, page 19. Let's do it right there. Understanding the Smallmouth. Okay, there's a picture of a smallmouth. Actually, there's a couple of them in there hanging around the wood stump. All right, Smallmouth Bass Basics. Boy, there's lots of pictures in these books. Lots of colored pictures explaining this, explaining that, all about the smallmouth. All right. Oh, and let's give you a copyright date on this. All right, so we can put this into context, because obviously every year we learn more and more about fishing. This is a 1986 is when this is done. So here we go. Smallmouth Bass Basics. Known for its aerial acrobatics and never give up determination, the smallmouth bass has a well-deserved reputation as the fightingest freshwater game fish. I can't even read. After a smallmouth strikes, it usually makes a sizzling run for the surface, does a cartwheel in an attempt to throw the hook, then wages a dogged battle in deep water. The smallmouth bass, Micropterus dolomieu, was originally found mainly in the eastern United States. Its range extended from northern Minnesota to southern Quebec on the north, and from northern Georgia to eastern Oklahoma on the south. It was not found east of the Appalachians, but owing to its tremendous popularity, the smallmouth has been widely stocked and is now found in every state with the exceptions of Florida, Louisiana, and Alaska. It has also been stocked in most Canadian provinces and in Asia, Africa, Europe, and South America. The smallmouth is sometimes called bronzeback because of the bronze reflections from its scales. Other common names include black bass, brown bass, Oswego bass, red eye, and green trout. Like its close relatives, the largemouth and spotted bass, the smallmouth belongs to the sunfish family. Smallmouth have been known to hybridize naturally with spotted bass, and biologists have created a smallmouth largemouth hybrid nicknamed the meanmouth because of its aggressive nature. Okay, stop right there. I think nowadays a meanmouth is more typically referred to as a smallmouth spotted bass hybrid, whereas here it's saying a largemouth smallmouth hybrid, but maybe it goes for both ways. I don't really know, and I don't really know of too many. I mean, in the wild, I've anglers run into the spotted bass smallmouth hybrid quite often in some of the in some places. Like for example, Beaver Lake's one place where I used to catch a lot of them. But I don't know if I've honestly ever caught a largemouth smallmouth hybrid. All right, anyhow, continue. Although smallmouth bass are considered excellent eating, the modern trend in sport fishing is towards catch and release, especially in heavily fished waters. Where fishing pressure is heavy, the large smallmouth are quickly removed, leaving only the small ones. Catch and release fishing is the best solution to this problem. I agree. Let's release those large smallmouth. On July 9th, 1955, D.L. Hayes was trolling a pearl-colored bomber around a shale point in Dale Hollow Lake, Kentucky. At about 10 a.m., he hooked a huge fish, and after a 20-minute fight, landed what turned out to be the world record smallmouth. It weighed 11 pounds, 15 ounces, and was 27 inches long. Wow. I think that's been contested, but I think depending on who you talk to, some people actually still recognize that as a world record, and others don't. It's great. I mean, somebody just caught one over 10 pounds out of Lake Erie last year. So to get 11-15, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibilities. All right, so we got a bunch of pictures, so let's just kind of go through the pictures a little bit. Okay, let's start with this page here. And these are, what are these doing? Let's take a close look at those. So let's read this caption first. Appearance of smallmouth top differs from that of spotted bass lower left. Okay. And largemouth lower right. Smallmouth have 9 dark vertical bars that come and go, and 3 bars radiating from the eye. Smallmouth lack the dark horizontal band present on largemouth and spotted bass, and normally have a darker belly. On spotted bass, a horizontal band consists of a row of diamond-shaped dark spots. They may have several rows of spots below the band. The band on largemouth lacks the diamond-shaped spots. All right, so yeah, spotted bass here, and they're talking about the diamond-shaped spots. There's a largemouth and, of course, a smallmouth. So, yeah, one thing I'll say, after catching these all over the place over the course of many years, smallmouth and spotted bass are more similar in their behavior and where they kind of hang out in a lake, whereas the spotted bass and largemouth look more similar. So anyhow, that's my input there. Okay, here is another picture. So this is showing the jaw, this dotted line showing the how the eye is related in position to the jaw, and that's one distinguishing feature. So right here, I'll read this. Mouth size clearly separates smallmouth bass top, that's the top, from the largemouth bass bottom. On a smallmouth, the upper jaw extends to the middle of the eye. On a largemouth, beyond the rear of the eye. The mouth of a spotted bass is intermediate in size. I would go, it says intermediate, but I would say it is much closer to the smallmouth. So it's like the shape of a spotted bass. Well, I'm not going to say that because that's not necessarily true. What I was going to say is the shape of a spotted bass and smallmouth are more similar to one another than are the largemouth and the spotted bass. But I'm not going to say that because I don't necessarily agree with that. All right, chameleon effect. The chameleon effect is shown by these two photos of the same smallmouth. Okay, this is the same smallmouth, top and bottom photo, and you can see this top photo's got a different shade than the bottom one. Chameleon effect is shown by these two photos of the same smallmouth. The top photo was taken after the fish had been held in a light colored tank. The bottom photo after it had been held in a dark colored tank. So, and this is very true of smallmouth, because many times you'll throw a smallmouth in the live well and it'll be completely different shade by the time you get to the tournament weigh-in. For sure, that happens a lot. Especially a lot of times, a lot of times you run into like these really black type smallmouth, and they will totally lighten up by the time you bring them into weigh-in. So they're definitely quick changers of color, whereas largemouths might do the same color change but over a longer period of time. So they are quite the chameleons for sure. All right, then now we got a series of 3 pictures showing like different color phases. So those 3 pictures. The top one is from Basswood Lake, Ontario. It's which is a slightly bog-stained lake. The middle one is from Lake George, New York, which is very clear. And then the bottom one is Percy Priest Lake, Tennessee, and it's got more of a greenish tint to it. So, color. Let's read the caption. Color phase of smallmouth bass varies greatly in different waters, depending mainly on the color of the water. These photos show 3 of the many possible color phases. In murky waters, smallmouth often have pale grayish coloration. And yeah, I would agree with that. If you catch any fish out of like a heavily or a muddy lake, that coloration will be like pasty, kind of whitewashed, kind of palish, compared with catching a fish of the same species caught out of clear water. In clear water, really clear water brings out the contrast and the vivid coloration and the markings of the fish. So, for example, if you catch a smallmouth out of Lake Ontario, it's just going to be really a vivid coloration most of the time. And then, but the one thing is that, like I mentioned before, is that dark coloration. You can run into that just about anywhere. And to me, that black coloration is the sign of a really aggressive fish for the most part. Some people think it means it's a big one, but no, I've caught dark ones that are just like 3-pounders or 2.5-pounders. So I just think it's a sign that the fish is aggressive and on the hunt, and maybe the fish is trying to this is just a guess, but maybe the fish is trying to assert itself in some sort of as some sort of dominant alpha role in the where it's hanging out. But like I said, it's not always the biggest one that's black. Sometimes it's just a 2.5-pounder. So, and then more on this color phase. it's really interesting. Like the lake out here that I fished, the fish are, you just don't get a lot of, you get more like this middle one, where you don't see heavy barring so much. You get kind of a dark back, and you just don't see a lot of barring to it. And this lake's got like about 10, it's clear water. It's got like 10 feet water clarity, or maybe 8 foot. Whereas, again, like if you catch one out of a really clear lake, you just get that more heavy barring. Like the fish in the smallmouths in the Great Lakes also tend to be more of a lighter brown in color for some reason than like if I go to, I don't know if I can say that. It's just there's a lot of uniqueness to coloration. Let's just leave it at that, because when I was thinking about comparing like a Rainy Lake smallmouth, which is clear water but slightly bog stained, that smallmouth can have some very vivid color, vivid markings to it, and brown, and the lighter brown can show up. So I don't know. It's hard to predict. I'll just leave it at that. But I do agree with this, like this Percy Priest lake. Like, it seems like some of the reservoir type ones have a greener tint, like this one is showing. I mean, not green, but I mean, they're still smallmouth looking, but they don't have that dark brown kind of deal going on. That's cool. All right, so that is some smallmouth basics for you. We're gonna cut that video short here, or right now. That's the end of that little section, and I thank you for watching. Well, hey, let's talk about they talked a little bit about the range of this fish. So I guess I didn't address that at all. So let's take a look. Let's just give you a little picture of that. In the that there is the map of the range of smallmouth, which it's probably changed quite a bit. And the one thing I'll say about that range is it's ever expanding. So this book was copyrighted in 1986. And I just know within the state of Minnesota how lakes that didn't have any smallmouth back then now have them, including the one out the window here. And how that has happened, I think for sure, in some cases it's anglers taking it upon themselves to spread these fish. But in other cases, I'm not really sure why this has happened. So, but let's leave it at that. And I thank you guys for watching. Hopefully, maybe you've fallen asleep and you're not even hearing me right now. So, have a wonderful evening, a wonderful night, have a good sleep, and thank you for watching. Over.